Hello everybody, welcome to this amazing game of Astellia. Today we're going to talk about the stats, tell you what they do, and tell you what classes are looking for which stats. So the stat page detail here is a little daunting, but we're going to break it down so it's super easy to understand. Your top 8 stats here are called your primary stats. The bottom stats are your substats. The bottom stats are how everything is calculated, so everything in terms of your damage, your accuracy, your evasion, defense, all that's down here. Your primary stats here effectively just increase your substats down here, so each one governs specific ones. So we'll go ahead and jump into the primary stats. The left side is physical, the right side is magical, and they mirror each other pretty well, and you'll see that shortly. Strength is physical attack and defense, but it also increases effective hit rate, so your status effectiveness will also go up. If you are playing a magical character, you obviously do not get the physical attack. You can only deal magic damage as a magical class, so all of your offensive stats are magical. So when you get a stat that gives you physical, it's just ignored and will give you just the defensive side. So warriors, assassins, and archers all take full effect on this. Scholars and mages only get the defense. Physical accuracy and evasion are from agility. Again, it says physical accuracy and evasion, but evasion's a very general stat, so evasion will go up regardless, but it also gives physical accuracy and physical crit chance. So your physical critical accuracy is increased along with your accuracy here, though I believe that the critical accuracy is by a smaller amount. So if you get this as a magical class, it's just the evasion, but the physical accuracy will be given to warriors, assassins, and archers. Dexterity says physical crit. What this specifically means is the crit chance, the crit damage, and then the crit evasion. So again, if you get this as a magical character, you will get critical evasion. What critical evasion is essentially a counter to crit chance. It reduces the chance of your attack becoming a critical. So if someone's hitting you hard for a lot of crits, having crit evasion will reduce their crits to just normal attacks. And getting this as a magical character will just give you the evasion, where the physical characters get all 3. Constitution is energy and health. Energy is a physical stat only. Health belongs to everybody. So energy is physical buffs, physical debuffs, physical regenerative properties, and physical dots. This essentially applies to buffs, such as the Assassin's buff that will increase your damage. The more energy you have, the more damage you increase by. This applies to the debuffs. The more energy you have, the more effective those debuffs are. The physical dots, so bleeds and poisons and the such, are all increased through energy for archers, assassins, and warriors. I believe energy will also increase threat level for the warriors' taunts. Intelligence, and this is where we start to get into the mirroring. You can see here that magical attack and defense, the physical characters only get the defense. Wisdom, magical accuracy. This specifically means magical accuracy, magical critical chance, and again, status effectiveness. So if you are a physical character, wisdom only gives you status effectiveness. Knowledge gives magical crits, which again is crit chance, crit damage, and this one's stat evasion, your resistance. So if you're a physical character, you will actually get status evasion. This is the resisting bleeds, resisting knockdowns, and anything that would debuff you effectively. Willpower is spell power and MP, so every class gets MP, but spell power is the opposite of energy. It does exactly what energy does, but for the magical characters. So magical buff, magical debuff, magical regens, and dots, all affected by spell power. But another important part to this is that it also affects healing spells. If you want your heals to be far more effective, you need to have spell power. So the more heals you do, all because of your spell power. Alright, so I wanted to cut over to here and show how your stats affect your spells, because the majority of it's going to calculate through here. So for example, the spell power here is affected from actual spell power. If this was a physical spell, it would say energy here. Your status hit rate affected by magic status accuracy, and then the effectiveness would also take effect here as well. So the ability to apply the cold is from magic status accuracy, which would come from your wisdom, and then your spell power from your willpower. Just your damage applies from magic attack, and this adds attack onto your magic attack, and that's how it calculates your damage, so on and so forth. But your spell power affects the dots, so this burn effect from Ignite would be more damaging with spell power. The status accuracy would be the hit rate chance, and then the damage from the initial swing. Recharge, again, this is the regaining of MP, and spell power affects how much MP you regen while casting this ability. And there are other things to look for other classes, but let's begin looking at what stats you're looking for as a mage. For mage, intelligence is just your base flat rate damage. You actually do want a bit of intelligence. But for PvE purposes, when playing against bosses and all the such, you actually want a lot of knowledge. A lot of your damage comes from crits, and you will crit very often. And you'll see that the crit damage is so worth it, changing some attacks from a measly 500 to well over 1,500. Crits are very important, and since this not only increases your accuracy for a crit chance, but it also increases the crit damage, so the higher your knowledge, the better. Wisdom is your accuracy, but it also gives you a bit of crit chance, but you don't want to focus primarily into wisdom. That is a stat you kind of get into. Like, if you get a little bit of it, it's good to have, but it's nothing you want to prioritize over the other. As you can see from my plus stats here, it's higher than my knowledge, so the gear that I have is not optimized for damage, but I will be a little more accurate. If you find yourself missing a lot of attacks, wisdom is a good way to go. Willpower for a mage is not terrible. Again, it's one of the side stats, but one of the least sought out for stats unless you're looking to increase your burns to be your primary damage. For me, crit chance has been carrying me throughout my entire Astellia journey, and dealing a lot of crit damage is fantastic. My burns don't deal that much, so I didn't ever test going too much into willpower itself. Being that I don't buff, I primarily burn. I didn't want to focus everything into that, but it's never a bad stat to have. If I was looking to be a PvP mage, agility is going to be very important. To sacrifice a little bit of intelligence and knowledge to get that evasion is very important. To dodge an enemy's attack is the life or death of you in PvP, especially dueling against a rogue. If they get one of the stuns on you, just dodging a stun can make all the difference. And the same thing goes for them. They're going to have a lot of agility, which means they'll have a lot of accuracy and a lot of evasion. Missing any of your spells is damning, so you do still want a bit of magic accuracy, but you'll also want a little bit of agility. Constitution, because it only gives health, you gotta be wary of. It's not a terrible stat, but you definitely want to avoid dexterity and strength, as they're absolutely most likely the most worthless. Unless you're trying to be a tank mage, I guess physical defense is the way to go, but I don't see why you do that. Intelligence to increase your base damage, knowledge to increase your crits. Wisdom and will as secondary stats, and you pretty much want to avoid all of the physical stats for mage. When playing as a scholar is a little different. You will not be focusing in damage, so knowledge will not be your primary stat. You will instead be focusing in willpower to increase how much your heals are worth. And then you'll have intelligence for just the base damage. Now, willpower also increases the damage of all of your dots, so you'll want to focus in that so that your curse deals a lot of damage. And intelligence will increase spells like Holy Lance, just your basic castable things, so that you can get more damage. Wisdom would be your secondary stat that you'd look for, and knowledge probably one of the least sought for, but not terrible to have. So, intelligence and willpower for a scholar, with wisdom and knowledge being secondary. Again, probably don't need strength, agility, or dex, but constitution, getting a little bit of health wouldn't hurt a little bit. For warriors, strength is defense and magical defense just slightly, but another thing that gives you defense is actually constitution. It's not listed on here, but it gives magic defense. So the more constitution you have, which gives you health, the more magic defense you'll get, along with energy, which will apply to your taunt threat levels. When you look at your warrior skills, it does apply your energy, so I believe that would deal with your threat. Health is always important, but strength will also give you a bit of defense. Agility also gives you evasion, and evasion is very important, especially when tanking. Dodging an entire attack is very worthwhile. I would say that dexterity is the one stat you don't need as a warrior unless you're looking to dish out some DPS, but your taunts should hold everyone together. So for warrior, you're going to want strength, constitution, with agility being your secondary stat. You will most likely want to ignore all of the magical side. It's pretty worthless. Dexterity, again, not a stat you want, so again, strength and con for warrior. For assassin, you are a strength and dexterity. You're going to be mimicking essentially what a mage does. Intelligence for your base damage, which is going to be strength, and knowledge for your criticals, which is going to be dexterity. But if you're going PvP, you will be needing a lot of agility. And the same thing goes for warrior. It seems that agility is going to be the PvP stat. Just being able to outright evade something is going to make or break a lot of builds. So as a assassin, you're definitely going to want some strength, dex, and agility as a secondary, and maybe some constitution for your bleeds. If you're looking to focus in bleeds, you could put a little bit into constitution, since you do have a bleed and a poison, and a lot of your attacks do get bonus damage off the bleeds, but PvE wise, you're definitely going to want to focus on dexterity for your crits. Archer is just about the same. Strength and dexterity, you want the crits. Everything is typically about crits when it comes to the PvE, so strength and dexterity for those crits as archer, agility on the side, and you do have a burn on the ground that you can get out of con, so any of the physical sides are important. So just to recap, mage, you'll want intelligence, knowledge. For scholar, you want intelligence, willpower. For warrior, strength, constitution. For archer and assassin, strength and dexterity. And essentially, you'll want to focus primarily on just your physical side. It's not as worthwhile to go to the other. You will still get benefits, so if you have a weapon that gives you a stat you don't want, it will give you something. As long as your overall stats are better, it's usually worthwhile to go over it. Now, when it comes to slotting runes for yourself, that's going to be up to your PvP build or PvE build. For me, when I'm playing mage, I like to increase my outright damage and my critical accuracy and attack, but I use whatever I get my hands on. It's been relatively hard to get runes that affect what I want. For example, on my bracelet here, I have HP, which I would normally actually want MP, and when doing a PvE build, I should not be taking damage in a dungeon run, so I should only be focusing on either my status effectiveness or my MP, because having more MP to cast with, very important, but also having critical accuracy, critical chance, all that just makes my damage as high as it can be. Critical attacks will always be your bread and butter when it comes to being a DPS role. So another thing to consider when playing someone like Scholar, your heal spells cannot crit, and I believe that dots cannot crit either. So having willpower and healing abilities, you cannot crit with a heal, so having any kind of crit chance there, useless. On top of, your heals should not be able to miss either unless a character runs out of range as you cast it. It will be considered evaded, but other than that, you will not need wisdom to land your heals. Willpower will be the one very important thing. Other than that, that is everything you need to know about stats, broken down as much as I can. We can go over this briefly, but it is pretty self-explanatory. Your magic attacks, your damage, both for just your basic attack and your spells, Accuracy is how often you'll hit. Critical attack is the increased damage that you deal from your crit. Accuracy is the chance to crit. Spell power is the increase of all the dots and debuffs we had talking about. Status accuracy is how accurate you are to landing your status effects, such as burns, freezes, and all that, with the status duration being how long your buffs, debuffs last. Defense is evasion, all self-explanatory, with critical evasion being what prevents critical attacks from happening. Status evasion is your resistance, with effectiveness being how well they actually take effect. Status healing rate is how fast you recover from debuffs and such, so they won't all be the same. And then your MP HP, just about the same. One more thing to talk about is your stat points allocations. These are given to you based on your Estelles. I have 14 now, but effectively, if you own all Estelles at max grade, you can get all of your stats maxed out. You can only put 5 bonuses into one stat. You need Atra crystals to do so, but I don't have any points to demonstrate. But you just click on the plus button, click on a crystal, and the crystal will give you a bonus, a random bonus. The bonuses are based on the rarity of the crystals, so here you'll be able to see a legendary will give you a 2.9 to 7% upgrade, where the most common one will give you a 0.5 to a 3.4 upgrade. So utilizing these gems is how you get these percentages. If you don't like the percentage, it is free to re-roll the stat, but you will lose every crystal you put into it. So it's very important that you try to get your +5 into the stats you like, and if it's high enough, you then move on to the next. So to get more allocations, you need to increase the grade of your Estelles. Stars owned here is the important thing. So based on number of stars is actually your max AP. Didn't even know that. And then your stat enhancement. So my next level of stats will be at 72 stars. I'll have 15 stats. So putting your mouse over stars owned will actually allow you to know what you're going to gain and what benefits there are. So increasing the grade of your Estelle is very important. We'll come out with a video later explaining the Estelles in more detail, but hopefully this stat video helped you out. Let me know in the comments down below if I missed anything or if something was incorrect. Let me know. I'm going off of the knowledge I could find based on everything out there on the web, which isn't too much, but this is what I know, and hopefully that helps you guys out. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you want more Estelle videos, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you all for watching, and as always, good game.